Good afternoon. Continuing with the laws of Purim, or on Tafresh Pei Zayin Beis, which is 687.2. I think I wrote the wrong number there on Facebook. So, very interesting halacha today we're going to be discussing. What if you're on the way to hear the Megillah and you see a dead body on the side of the road? What do you do? So, we'll start from the beginning. Mevatlan Talmud Torah Lishmo Mikra Megillah. One should stop learning Torah to hear Megillah. All the more so, other Torah mitzvahs, they all get pushed off to go to hear the Megillah. Nothing gets pushed off for reading the Megillah, chutz, except meis mitzvah, except for a meis mitzvah. A meis mitzvah is when you find the body and there's no one tzarich to bury it. You're the only one available to bury this body, which it's disgraceful for a human body to be laying out there and not being buried. Kedei tzarcho. That if you, on your way to shul, your way to hear the Megillah, and you see a body, you have to bury the body. You have to do that before you hear the Megillah. And he writes, the Ramah says, that's only when you have time to do both. But if you can't do both, he says, a Torah commandment does not get pushed off because of Megillah. So if you only can do the Torah commandment or the Megillah, then you do the Torah commandment, but we'll soon see some qualifications. It's where it's impossible to do both. And that burying the body comes first is only when you can do both. So let's see some details in the Mishnah Berurah. Kedei tzarcho, Maloshin zeh muchach da'av shehu be'ir sheyesh lo kovrim, d'shuv eino mutal be'bizayin, v'hazrizus lo kovro, kodem hurak, toisefes kavalo, afilu hachi mutal lahakdimo kodem mikra Megillah. He says, it sounds from the Shulchan Aruch, the case we're talking about isn't only where you find a body that has no one to bury it, but if you help, it'll be done quicker, and it will be more respectful for the deceased. In such a situation, the Shulchan Aruch says that you should bury the body before you hear the Megillah. That sounds like also from the Ramah like that. No, the Magen Avraham argues, he says, the only case where you bury the body first is when there's actually nobody else to bury him. He's sitting there, there's no one to bury him, very disgraceful situation. But when you have a city has a Chevra Kadisha, there are people appointed that take care of these types of things. Mikra Megillah Kodem, in such a case, then you can read the Megillah first. Unless it's a Torah scholar, his burial should come before reading the Megillah. The Vilna agrees to this lalacha. He says, though, if you started burying the body, then you do not stop to read the Megillah, even if you're not going to be able to read the Megillah after. Because once you start with a mitzvah, you don't stop in the middle of the mitzvah. Okay, but the Ika shows, same thing with a bris. What comes first? Let's say you have, it's Friday morning, let's say someone had a baby boy, so there's going to be a bris. So what comes first? Do you have a bris first, or do you do the Megillah first? So Imika shows, you have time to do both. Megillah Kodem Mishum Pirsumei Nisa. Megillah should come first because it's a mitzvah which involves publicizing a miracle. So you do that first. Va'olam Nogim Lomol Kodem Megillah. But the custom is to do the bris milah before the Megillah. Ukadlakam b'sov siman tafresh tzadi gimel. Okay. Avalim I efshar. If it's impossible, if you have a Torah mitzvah and the Megillah, and if you don't fulfill the Torah mitzvah now, it's not going to be applicable anymore. Then you do the Torah mitzvah. So he says, if the cases where our body, the cases with the, not our body, but where someone finds a dead body. So if the situation is going to be that, he's running to Megillah, so if he buries this body now, he's not going to be able to hear Megillah. but he can come back after and do it. So then he should hear Megillah, because he wouldn't be able to hear the Megillah otherwise. But if the situation is where he wouldn't be able to bury the body, let's say he's worried that thieves would steal the body. They used to have grave robbers. So if you're worried that grave robbers are going to come or something like that, then you would bury the body and forego the mitzvah of Megillah. Ancient mitzvah deraisa nitches mipnei shemikra Megillah hu rak mid'Rabbanan. In the end of the day, reading the Megillah is only a rabbinic mitzvah. Va'ayim b'taz shehiv b'shem Rashal Bach tetamin mikra Megillah kodem b'shem pirsumei nisa. The Taz and the Marshal and the Bach, they say that even if it's a choice between a Torah mitzvah and Megillah, then you should read the Megillah first, because it has that aspect of Pirsumei Nisa, of publicizing the miracle. V'ha'grab b'Yeru gam came sover hachi, and the Vilna Gaon holds like this. Okay, but the Evshelo likara, aval im hu samach lechashecha yikra ha-Megillah. If it's close to evening, the day's almost over, then you should read the Megillah. The Ames Mitzvah Evshel kover b'layla, like we said, a person could go back and bury the body afterwards. V'hinei zeh hitek harama b'shem hara mizrachi, aval kama achrayim cholkim al zeh v'sarvim dafilu ba'ofen shidach Megillah gamrei gam kein mes mitzvah kodem mishum kavod avriyas, achin kvar b'er leil d'davka b'mes mitzvah mamish, aval lo b'shar mesim, ve'afilu im nifsuk sham the Bashar Mesim Gam came mitzvah haktim kavras lekrim Megillah al kain al kaponim hechad yitcha ali the Chris Megillah Gamrei bevad Megillah kodem v'kaver beis of b'layla. So he says there are some that hold that if you're the only one to bury the body and you're gonna miss Megillah, you should, even if you could do it after, you should bury the body first before and not hear Megillah that year. Now we saw opinions before that said not like that, so it's a debate. If this ever happens, I hope it doesn't happen to anybody. After you call 911 or whatever, you can call your rabbi, find out what a person should do. But sometimes this, it does come up. If someone's at a funeral, it's a mitzvah to have that a Jewish person buries other Jewish people. So sometimes at funerals, unfortunately, people don't stay behind to do the burial, and it's not respectful. They just pour dirt from a truck. So it's a very big mitzvah to bury the individual by his or her friends and family. But either way, there's a lot of details here, a lot of disputes about what comes first, the Megillah, burying a body, Torah, when Torah mitzvahs come in conflict. But what we see is how important it is to read the Megillah, that we're even discussing this. It's so important that one might even forego, in certain scenarios, burying a dead body, according to some opinions, or at least push it off until later, because we see how important it is to hear the Megillah. And pretty soon, after Purim, God willing, we're going to start, Bli Neder, the laws of Pesach, laws of Passover. So if anyone is interested in that, please feel free to send me an email, Shaul Rosenthal, ShaulRosenthal, @gmail.com, and have a beautiful day.